You're on.
We're on, okay, good. Let's call the meeting to order. We have any guests? Robert, do you have anything to say this morning?
No, I signed a peace agreement with Mr. Robert Rios, so I can't.
They actually signed it.
They signed it.
I think that's against policy.
And they did it in blood.
Signing any peace agreement with you, Robert, but that's against policy.
But you know, anything can be signed, can be broken, Johnny.
I understand. Yeah, contract's only good with the paper they're written on. Glad to have you here today. All right, well, let's get started.
Lisa,
I kind of need to hurry if we
your
can.
sign is up there.
Yes, I know. I was rushed, but I can go get it.
Is it on?
It's on.
We're gonna be through before you get the sign.
Okay, okay. After we sing happy birthday.
Okay, you gonna do that on
Better turn it off.
Yeah. Let's do that afterwards.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
let's do that afterwards. We'll have a party afterwards, okay?
Okay, okay.
All right, the minutes of April 10th. Mr. McGill not gonna be here?
No, he, he had hip surgery and,
No, I didn't.
got an infection, so he's back in the hospital.
Oh my God, that's not good. Those kind of infections are not good. Well, it's going there, so circulation, oh, they got antibiotics, so it's not good. Well, you doing all right?
Yeah, he said I'm a lot better.
Replacement.
Okay, the minutes of April 10th meeting. We're in your packet. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes as presented? Haven't heard none. I'd entertain a motion to approve them as presented.
Well,
Oh, I've heard some.
I was here at that meeting, wasn't I?
Well, it says you were, I guess you were. Oh, it doesn't say you were. You were here.
Yeah, he was here.
That's the only thing that needs to be.
Where it says that there's president.
I don't see my name, but I was here.
Right. Yeah, it does need to reflect his name. Okay. Y'all take care of that for us? All right. Now I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes as corrected by our barrister over here.
That correction.
Who wants to make the motion?
I move that we accept.
Okay, Art makes a motion.
Second.
Second. Mary seconds. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, Mary. Before we get started, and I noticed you changed the format, and I had some questions I didn't understand. And you can, I'm sure, explain it to me. The year-to-date accrual basis, what does that mean? I am totally lost.
Our accrual, our system is based on accrual. Let's say if we invoice a customer, that amount, which say it's 4,000, is automatically put in as part of our revenue.
Part of the
So it's an
revenue, but it's
accrual.
not really revenue.
Correct,
Yeah,
until we
yeah.
receive the
I'm a
cash.
cash person, I
Correct.
hate little stuff because it makes
So that's why we
sense.
have two columns, a cash basis.
Okay, let me ask you this question. My question was, I'm looking at this deal, I say it's the income statement, okay? Or the income, whatever you call it. All of the sheet, the income report, okay? And I'm looking at it, and under the cash basis, this is what we spent.
No.
Under the accrual basis, is this is income, what we have received, excuse me. The 8 million, let's look at the bottom line down. The total operating revenue, we have, under the cash basis, received $8 million. But we have actually invoiced $9 million. Okay, but then the reflection with the over or under budget doesn't show the differences between the budget and the accrual, not the actual cash. So we don't really know where we are in the cash position.
On the cash, no, this is just based upon the
That's what I'm
accrual
saying,
and the
so it's
budget.
confusing as heck, excuse me, to me. I hate the accrual stuff, because it doesn't, it's accounting, and it needs to be done. But for me, as a director, to know where we are cash-wise, which is the only thing that's important to me as a director, the reflection there shows that we're better off than we really are. different than what we really are. And do we have to do it that way? Can we not get the budget to reflect the cash budget instead of the accrual?
We can go based upon the budget and the cash basis, or if you like, we can hide this column on the accrual basis.
Well, I don't know what the rest of it means nothing to me, that's what I'm saying. And for me to be, we get this and we look at it quickly, right, to see. And if you can see anything that's over or under budget in the real world, it sticks out, then you ask a question about it. If it looks consistent with the time of year and what have you, but this is, to me, the over and under budget figure over here doesn't tell us the real story. If you can do it that way, I'd rather have it that way. I don't know about the rest of y'all, but I deal in cash, not maybes, and that's what accrual is. So,
And we can do it that way.
if you can, I'd appreciate it, I'm like,
Because I can work either way.
well, you're a lot smarter, I mean,
No,
you
I
went to
just-
Texas, you went to Texas, and I went to New Mexico State, that's the difference.
No,
Yeah, it's hard to know exactly.
no. The first page of the financial
Yes, I
statement.
understand, Mr. Smith.
If it's possible, I'd like that
Well, let
correct.
me ask something then in that respect, in that vein, to clear it up a little bit, like on, if you go down on page 1, financial statement, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th line, it says accounting service charges. So what Johnny's saying, we've only received 251, but we're giving credit 402. Explain that discrepancy. It seemed like those two numbers would be the same to me.
Every time we assess in November our tax-based customers, this amount is automatically entered into the system as a receivable.
That's what they charge for, $100,
Yes.
but we've only received 250.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. The reality is we only have
So-
251,000, not 400.
So what Johnny's saying, rather than that, on the right column, the 2,900, we'd be talking about, whatever the difference is, 149.
Yeah, which is the real world.
Okay.
Okay. Because the
Well,
budget
that's
should be
good.
based
I
on
can go either
cash.
way, that's fine. Or if you want to add another column, saying over under budget accrual, over under budget.
Yeah, but if we have debts that we fully expect to receive before the end of the budget.
And when you receive it, it'll reflect such.
Yeah.
And until you receive it,
You said people aren't gonna pay their bills?
let me ask Rose, does everybody pay up their bills every year?
98%.
No.
No.
Oh, come on, Rose, 98%.
98%, but not all.
98%.
98.6.
Yeah, well,
You can leave that accrual deal in it, I don't care, the column. I would like the cash, the budget to reflect off of the cash budget, so that when I look at this deal quickly, I can see if there's problems in the cash area.
Okay, so
Not what we
you'd like
may be
to,
having.
to show the over and under reflect between the budget and the cash.
If
basis.
you can do it on the cash basis and instead of the accrual basis, then leave the accrual accounting.
Or add an extra column and do it both of them.
Or you can do it that way.
No, we can do it. It doesn't-
But that's-
I know, it doesn't matter.
there's about 20 columns that are hidden in there to try to get it on a cash basis already, so
All right.
all I have to do is change the equation.
You see, that's what you get with dealing with somebody that's not very astute in accounting. I understand cash, but I don't understand maybes.
Well,
That's what it
you know, we're extremely careful on our
No,
accrual.
yeah, and you have to do it, I understand. But for our benefit to know what's really going on, which is what we need to know.
You guys,
cash.
I think we only made one invoice over the history, which carried for 2 years. We had discussions every board meeting that didn't get paid, remember the one that?
Yeah.
We had to get it out, because we got it in the system and couldn't get it out.
Couldn't get it out, so remember, yeah, we're really
We had to
careful
get
about
our auditors to finally,
adjust. Well, what happened is that before the error was discovered, it went past the fiscal, which means it got frozen. And so we can catch it, if we catch it before the end of the year, then we can do it. But we're marrying our strictly
We had to get
sensitive
the
to not
accounting.
invoicing for things we don't expect to get.
right, we had to get the accounting, the auditors to write some kind of letter so we could put it,
Right, because they
to
had.
quantify it. We just couldn't do it ourselves. 'cause we
Right,
already
they did it,
filed.
they went past the audit, and so we had to get a letter. But anyways, we won't do that ever again.
Mary, are the T-bills still in limbo or being suspended or whatever the government's calling it?
I believe so. As of now, I have not received any notice from the Bureau stating that the suspension has been
Okay.
released. Correct.
All right. So, because
So what, we can't cash them in, is that what it is?
that,
No, you can cash them.
that explains the 2% CD.
Problem with accrual.
Right, and we had 2% from the initial maturity of
Yeah.
the investment on March 22nd as of April 30th. We did receive $4,355 in
Already,
interest
okay.
already.
Yeah, it's amazing, it's tremendous,
Yes.
wow, that is
Yeah.
absolutely tremendous. And I see that it woke up some of the folks up at West Star there.
Yeah.
Yes, it is a significant jump from our.
I knew when you took that much of, I knew when you withdrew that amount of money, they was gonna, whoa, what's going on here? All the way to the top. Anyway, I'm in a hurry and I took up all this time. With your report.
The next we have is the balance sheet.
I wanted to ask you all a question right quick. On our 6-year plan with maintenance and remodeling, do we have a dollar figure of about how much that's gonna cost us, an estimate of the amount of money over that time?
Yeah, yes, we do.
And we've already done 2 years of it.
We extend the plan out 2 years. Every year we do it, we add another year to it, so we only have 5 years.
So you only have the 5 years, but we've already paid for the stuff behind us, so what we're looking at is what we're gonna do in the future. And how much money is that? How much money do you think we're gonna do?
Well, there's two, again, with your accrual thing, we have what the value is if we were to have to pay all the labor. But of course, the labor is accounted for in our salaries, and we have what's out of pocket, what we actually have to pay to do it. The amount that we budget to is about, for what we actually have to pay is about $2.5 million a year.
Right.
$2.5 million a year.
But the work product, if you were to go buy the work product that we complete.
Well, I know, but we pay the people regardless anyway.
Right.
Because the nature of the beast, most of them, because we're able to utilize them in 2 areas, operations and maintenance. In the maintenance area during the operations season, we got to pay for them anyway, and so we're being able to utilize those same people to do it. So, I mean, that's part of the budget already, but this other's an additional cost, and I was just wondering about how much money we were talking about. I didn't remember the figure. So you're saying about $2.5 million per year and 5 extra over and above.
Yeah,
And of course, that's the stuff we don't have to do.
Right.
Wish list.
well,
Well,
for the most part, it's stuff we don't have to do. Sometimes things get on.
No,
that we
what I
have to
was
do.
looking at is the amount of money that we have in CDs and what have you, and how we can cover it, and how to manage that.
Right now, it's the capital improvement program we're running about $2.5 million out of cost of each.
Plus the grant money that we have already scheduled, we
Well,
got.
that's a different deal, that comes along, and that's, that's the icing on the cake when you get that. For our projections, we don't know whether we'll get those or not, but they have been put into.
For the next 2 years, we've got already grants awarded.
Yeah, I understand.
We keep Phil without its crane and look at all the money we're saving right there.
Yeah. He can't go spend as much money, can he? Go ahead. Sorry, I messed up again. Go ahead, man. Any questions of the balance sheet, I guess not. Balance sheet or investment report.
This is our investment report and our capital bond check report as well.
Mary, on the first page, that 500, the halfway down, the unit T8, and it says Kenworth. Is that one of our tractor rigs, Chuck?
Whereabouts are you?
About on page 1 of that 500 check.
Okay.
Go about halfway down the first page.
MHC.
Kenworth,
Does that mean that's a repair to what, one of our,
one of our
Semi-truck?
one of our dump trucks, yes,
okay.
the T8.
And then I had a question, if you go down there, mention I had TASC FMLA matters. and it says FMLA renewal. What in the heck is that?
It's a program that we have in, for FMLA, that any of our employees would have to take some time off or.
It's the Family Medical Leave Act.
Family medical leave.
And it's a renewal fee that we,
Okay, all right.
it has to be paid on a yearly
So
basis.
it's on our, part of our health care coverage or something?
It's a budgeted item.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Got a question on the second, those two. What's the thing with the Texas Title Company? A refund due, wouldn't that be on another? That's income, isn't it? So on, where it says Texas Title Company, it says
Tax
tax
assessment.
assessment refund. What is that for?
This is an overpayment on our taxes that, the title company sometimes pays on a land that has been sold, and the refund has been issued. Anything paid over is returned.
The title company paid us
Too much.
too much.
Too much.
How much money?
But it was an estimating, when they closed some kind of deal, they paid us too much money, and so they refunded it.
Does that happen often?
Yes, sir, it does. It does.
Because it's an estimated
Yes,
whenever they.
because this one was a larger amount.
Big check, old George is on the ball, he saw that deal, and it does look like it should be income instead of expense, right? Any other questions of the final amount of cash report, or the credit card report? We don't look at the legal and consulting report, because it always makes us nervous. Look at that one.
Keep me out of trouble.
Although I do have one question,
You got it all the time.
but it's under interrupted Blair there about 3/4 down, it says your flood risk. What is that?
That's what we discussed, the presentation on last month, the big multi-year project we've been working on.
Oh, that, okay. Right, well, that's,
Said it.
that's all I could remember.
Stopped up river.
And I saw it was ongoing, and I was trying to remember what the heck that was. Okay.
Yeah, we have our big meeting with the boundary next month,
Right, on the 7th.
right? I think the day before the board meeting.
Remember, he handed out that big report, you know, that got things that thick and all the stuff in it, and I thought, typical government stuff you have to do when you drive down the river and see what you need to do and go do it. Which, get the job done for less than it costs to do the report to say you need to do it.
Well, the total job estimate was about 15 million, so I think the report was a little less than that. But we hope we can get the city's working with on the infrastructure project to, most of that money is in a shovel-ready project. We've already got design, the city's and the boundary did the work up front, and they just never had the money to implement it, so we hope that that one has a high priority.
You know, and once they get it done, I hope they maintain it. The problem with them is they do something they don't even maintain it. And, you know, they're responsible, George, for cleaning the river all the way to the Kalaya Reservoir, the boundary.
And how far down the other way?
All the way down.
Well, they share the responsibility with Mexico, depending, once it gets.
Depending on where it is. But they are solely responsible for it once it becomes international border.
Yeah, then they share it.
Which
Work on
means,
prices, maintenance?
one time, one of our boundary commissioners got Mexico to do some work, and they paid them back because they weren't allowed to do it in the US.
Well,
I won't say who, but it worked, it needed to be done, it really did.
yeah, and they hired Mexico to do our section of the river, which had, I think, was mainly the money. It was one-fifth the price of what
They removed a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I was thinking more about the dynamite issue.
Oh, that's a
That's a different issue, a long time ago, and it needed to be done, but I mean.
What's that, we done to them?
Yeah.
Hot spring.
Because the river right now is going in all directions.
Well, no, let me tell you why, that's a wilderness area, you know, they've stopped them from cleaning down there, and it's an absolute, you You need to fly over that sometime. I flew over in the eighties and I couldn't do
That down by Indian Hot Springs?
it. Below, yeah.
Below there?
Salt cedar forest.
It's a salt cedar forest, and the water runs over, there is no channel. It's
So they
unbelievable.
don't have
All
that
those
here.
little old farms and all that stuff on both sides of the border.
We're thinking that,
All on the
that
water.
that's the highest priority for the border fence, so they can clear the pathway for the river there.
There are such things, chalupas, they know how to float. There's no problem. Sorry, Mary, keep interrupting. Any other questions?
Questions on the legal consulting report?
Anybody have any questions? Well, anybody have any other questions for Mary?
I do have one more item, Mr. Stubbs, and it's required by the bank, a resolution in regards to acquiring a MasterCard with Westar. Right now, we do have an American Express, but we do come across vendors that do not
You
accept it.
Oh, yeah. That's good, then you can't spend the money.
Vendor.
So you get a resolution so that you can apply for a
Do you have a resolution?
Correct.
Do we have the resolution? Did you read it?
Debit card.
Do we have a debit card or just a credit card?
A credit card.
Just credit card.
Do you have a debit card?
You need a debit card?
No, sir, not at this time.
Why
They don't
not?
do very good because there's a limit on it.
Why not? I use my debit card all the time and I never use a credit card.
There's a limit on those, Jim, and a lot of places don't accept those either. And you can get,
Well, they'll take a debit card.
We
if you get instant
we
cash.
never have any late payments or
I
anything.
don't-
I'd like
The
float
monthly
it
bill
for
is paid
20
every
days.
month, yes, so any charge that's made
Yeah.
for the month is paid
25.
by the end of the month.
so, I don't like debit cards either. Do you have the resolution? Can you read what they want us to say, or do we just need to, what do we need to
It just
say?
is to state that you all have approved to apply for the MasterCard.
Okay, y'all will take care of the wording of the resolution. Somebody want to make the motion?
I'll make the motion.
Okay, Larry makes a motion. George seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Same sign. We didn't put any limit on that.
Yeah, I agree.
What is the normal limit? What did you have on the other?
American Express doesn't put a
American
limit.
Express, I believe, was 20,000.
No, on mine it's 100,000.
100,000.
We need two resolutions.
That's why it's not a debit card.
I think we've never gone over.
We're gonna buy a jet airplane?
I think we're getting a crane.
Mostly, anytime we buy any equipment or anything on American Express, it's done through Mary's. Mine is just like travel for myself and the board. or-
No, I know those other ones, but you have, so you do really have that high limit? I think there needs to be a limit in the.
Yeah, but we could, I guess, limit it 25,000 area? Would you say?
You see, I
That's
use my
fine,
credit card.
but it needs, I think it needs to be put in the resolution.
What I don't, yeah, what I don't want is what happened to us in Austin that time that we
Yeah,
went
I know
and.
they wanna- No, you need to have plenty, but there needs to be some kind of state limit.
About 10,000 should take care of that problem.
Well, that's right, it's 25,000, you made the motion, it's 25,000, all right? Put a $25,000 limit on it. All right, there's been a motion and seconded, hearing the other discussion, if not, entertain a motion, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign, motion carried. Bill, let's start. Okay, Mary, you got offline again, although we've been discussing it for 30 minutes. Rose?
Good morning.
Good morning, Rose. Split Rose is wearing roses.
She's supposed to.
I do have one tax adjustment. Mr. Alvarez did contact the office.
Rose, excuse me, just talk as loud as you can because I can't understand this.
Mr. Alvarez did contact the office regarding the water charges. He had notified the office that he was not going to be irrigating, but when our field investigators went out to the site, they saw water. Well, it was city water, not irrigation water. So it has been verified by the alcalde, and also Josh. Quinn, he's our water records coordinator, he went out to the field and verified that it is city water that was used.
So we need to refund him his money.
Yes, sir. So the water charge is about $138.40 plus penalty and interest of $19.98, a total of $158.58.
Make a motion, we approve that assessment,
The adjustment.
adjustment.
Second. Larry seconds, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign, motion carries. Okay.
Our next report is the El Paso Public Service Board assignments, Lower Valley Water District assignments, and tax suits. Did you have any questions on that report? This is just for information purposes.
No, I just like the progress we're making with Lower Valley, and I met with Jerry yesterday, and the first time I ever heard him, and told him how great the job they were doing, how much we appreciated it, and it's a mutual benefit to them, and he said, well, we'll work on it. So I think that's great. He seems very, very capable.
Yeah, and he was in here to visit with us
Yes, sir, not
two Fridays ago.
Yes.
I was very, very positively impressed with his attitude.
He's a good man.
The way He's trying to do things, and it sorely needed. Excuse me, Rose, I interrupted you. But that looks real good, and I mean, that can solve a lot of your
Yes.
problems.
Yes.
And
So it'll be more than
it's
98.6%.
And for them, it's a huge, huge, huge plus too. For pay for such invaluable resources.
Our next report is also for information purposes. It's the comparison between the 2018 and 2017 tax assessment. 2018, we're at 96.9837%. Last year, at the same time, we're at 97.3566%, so we are still trailing.
See, there's an illustration why the accrual method didn't mean. Excuse me.
1%.
That was for Al.
1%.
But we are sending notices out, and we do compare records to those essential appraisals to make sure we got the correct address, correct ownership. And so we're working with Public Service Board and or about it.
You guys do a good job. It's just the nature of the beast.
Thank you, sir. Do you have any questions?
That's it.
Yes, sir.
Good job as always, Rose. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
I got one question.
Yes, sir.
You go back in time, how come it was so small, the percentage collected back in 17, 18, and then all the rest of them, almost all 90s are higher?
Well, for one thing is the assessment, the rate has been the same for a couple of years, but the water charges, we didn't have that allotment that we had the year before and so on.
We didn't have full allocation.
So that makes a big difference.
See right here, everything's 90 or better, I'm not here.
I think those are the monthlies, because
Yeah.
things are real
And
slow.
looking at the
Again,
comparison.
it's compared to some time.
But it's weird. Anyways, he's just talking about the percentages. So during November,
You're looking at December, if you look on top, Georgia, December collections were 8,777. So it's not that far off. It's just a slow month. It's right
Oh, I see, it's
when,
based off on
Yeah.
months. He's-
Yeah.
right, it's a
Oh,
month,
so
it's
then
not,
that's a mirror image.
Right.
Okay.
because that's when they send out the tax statements in November, and then,
and they're not due, so no, they're.
right, till January,
Until
so.
the end of January.
That's people that want their deduction.
That's what, wait till the last year.
They don't pay it, they don't want it.
Is that explanation?
Yes.
Cut in about-
I dig that.
cut that contract about half.
Yeah, exactly. But he gave you a tax break for you, that 2 cents back for whatever $1,000,000 you loan. All right, moving on, it's my time now. Thank you, Rose.
Thank you.
All right, Julie, you're on.
Okay, I only have one item, and I posted it in both the closed and the open, and since it deals with a Supreme Court case, I'd like to discuss
Do
it
it
in
in
the
closed
closed.
session.
Yes.
Good deal. All right, district engineer. Are you finally getting some
Yeah,
water
I
down
want-
the river?
You know, Robert's got, pretty soon it's gonna be 4-foot Robert, right? Won't be long.
Well, Robert's gonna grow again.
He's 18 inches now. But, so I want it to be good news Blair. So.
That's the first time you drove, my second time, last time you did too.
So, since I'm 20 years.
Yeah.
But, so right now we're at 377, that's total of the project storage that's usable, that's not in credits or San Juan Chama water is 357, so about 20K. Inflow is about 6K a day, that's going up, we'll look at that in just a second. And my estimates for the next 34 days, we'll have inflow of about 280K. It becomes a little unpredictable on starting next week when we're out of Article 7. So that'll enable upstream storage of this runoff water. And you'll see here in a minute that all the reservoirs are pretty empty, so we don't know except for Vado. So this is yesterday's, the only snow remaining is at high elevations. But
That didn't blow your computer when you had those big numbers up there, because I think they probably got lost in the memory on your computer. When you typed it, I figured it'd blow it up.
Didn't see that, but, so, you know, we're seeing obviously at the above 10,000 foot or 9,000 foot, we're still seeing significant amounts of snow, which are good. There's not a whole lot of water up there because it's limited area, as you can see from this picture, but the soil is saturated below that from the snow melt, so that water still is making it through the shallow aquifers into the rivers and stuff like that, so we'll still see a lot of increase here shortly on doing it. So these are the snow water equivalents from 2 gauges. We primarily use Wolf Creek. I got that moved up a little high. So the top one's Wolf Creek, and this one's the one on the Chama, Cumbres Trestle. Both. So we went through a snow melt about a little over a week ago, and then we had an event 4 days ago, and then, which was pretty interesting. I like these things. I like. Like wow. This is at a little lower elevation, the trestle, so as you can see, we've started the snow melts. I don't think we're gonna come back after this one. And we're just now starting up at Wolf Creek again. So we got a little surge into the system, got cold again, it actually snowed again, and now we're starting over again. So this is good on doing it.
It's wonderful. Feeling good.
And these are new curves. They changed their website. The graph looks different than we have in the last 10 years. These are updated with more recent estimates of average. So we can see that those estimates have pushed the snow melt earlier. Typically in the old curves, we were out here closer to June, and now they've been pushed back. It's an indication that it's getting warmer earlier in the year at those high elevations. And we've seen that in the data. And they seem to be matching a little bit better. So this, I think, is based on the last 18 years, whereas the previous stuff was based on going back into the 70s. So that's good.
No, that didn't mean anything.
So the stars are going to indicate that, or the zeros are in apple that the snow's already completely melted at those sites at lower elevations. So we're looking at these numbers in the Upper Rio Grande Basin just having to do with really the high elevations. You can see 11,000 feet, 10,400. They're way up there, 12,000. But we're still at that. This is great. I mean, we're at 137 for those ones that still have water. So there's a lot of water up there. Same thing on the Chama. In terms of the Sangre de Cristo and Hemas, we usually don't even look at these. I mean, I put them on there just to fill the blank space. There's not any significant amount of water coming out of the Hemas for sure. A little bit of Sangre de Cristo, but it's still, you can see, and there's some of them that really stick out for this time of year that are a little lower elevation. It's historically only had about 3 inches, and it's got 8 inches up there now, so that's pretty impressive. I've seen something like that. Rainfall
For the Rio Chama and all those others, normally there's.
Yeah, and the Chama's really productive.
Really
It looks
great.
like it's gonna be really productive. Significant amount of water is coming out off the Chama, but it also has reservoirs on it, so we'll talk about that. So this is just rainfall, so we are seeing some, where we expected some lower elevations, not as much down here. It's not anything spectacular this last 30 days. So, but we look at this stuff to see how wet the system is, so it's not super wet, but it's not bad doing it. So this is at Del Norte, which is up there where you guys were near Alamosa, where you might have been gone to the site. Did you guys go to the site when you were up there at the tour, or at the compact meeting?
No.
It's right, it's not far away from where you guys were, just down the road, doing it. So we can see that what you saw in those other curves that we started to have, these go the opposite way of the snow. The snow melts and this is water in the river, so these go up when the snow's going down. And you can see that we did have an event, a snow melt event, you saw on there, and now it went the reversed, opposite of the snow. And that's when it got cold and started snowing again, and then just in the last couple of days, it started picking back up. So it's starting. This is the beginning of it. And this was a good sign, well above normal. This is a real long-term normal, 121 years, so it's not, we typically don't use, this is from Colorado's website, we don't use records this long, we look at really the last 30 years at the most because of the changes that have happened in the system. Down in our next big place, you know what Herman Setmeyer always said, the one that rings the bell, the one that creates an obligation to deliver to us. So we look at this carefully, and we can see the same thing where we started, the snow melt started, and then it stopped, and now it's gonna, we expect this to pick back up. This one's more regulated because of the reservoirs, so some of this was anticipatory releases that we knew about, that they're releasing water, and not actual snow melt. But having said that, here's your long-term average, this is a 48-day, and here we are up here, you know, at 5,000. This is logarithmic, so that's 5,000 CFS, so that's great in terms of pushing a lot of water into the reservoir. And there's the one that counts, the one that's going into the reservoir, actually, and we're seeing that, you know, 5,000 in the northern part of the state at the NDSC, and we're generating 4,000 at this time here down the reservoir, so that's a 80% transfer, that's great. You know? And this is, of course, these all lag. I think there's a reservoir that this water has to go through, a flood control reservoir, so it gets distorted a little bit, so it's hard to predict the lag, but it's at least a week, and it's showing something like that on this chart. We're just now getting that last snow melt down in here, and then it'll drop off, and then the one that's happening today, the last few days, will be about 2 weeks away. It's farther up in the system to get down, so it's all there are relationships with all these things. These are the status of reservoirs as of on the 6th. These charts are a little bit, this is the full watershed with the Pecos. You know, we usually carve the Pecos out of it, but this is the way that Bureau Reclamation's represented it. And then this little piece here that generates a lot of our water is just right up here. It's very small. So this is very much enlarged, but it is a very hot productive part of it. And we have to look at that. Elephant Butte, 17%, as you saw in the numbers, Caballo, 14%. So there's plenty of room in both of those. And we're at similar storage levels. I think Vado, we've decided they're gonna maintain it about this for maintenance. Not a whole lot of water is gonna go into, I guess it may go up 25,000.
That's that big old dirt dam up there.
Yeah, it's an older dam. It's the first
They
one.
were having problems with, a long time ago, they did a lot of rate maintenance.
Yeah, I think this has the problems with the gates right now.
Right, and they estimate they're only gonna hold back 40,000.
Oh, shucks.
And,
But the other reservoirs, Abiquiu and Aron, are still have lots of storage room in it, so about eight, I think what's the total, that's 500, I think the 400 plus a good 300, so about 700, 800,000 storage capacity, there's a lot of storage capacity.
I went on that trip with Jess Gilmer, our former commissioner, Rio Grande Compact Commissioner, and he went to all those dams, and it was a pretty interesting deal. I didn't realize how all that stuff functions, but to see it, see each, one of them, kind of have an understanding when they're talking.
Yeah, on the main stem of the Rio Grande going into Colorado, of course, we only have some very small reservoirs that don't typically impact. So changing from Article 7 to a condition where they can store water, really it's on the Chama, but you know, that's where a lot of our water is this year, so we'll just have to see. Some of that stuff may be delivered late in the year, at their option. Having said all that, right now, I recommend that we wait till Reclamation's done a preliminary allocation. The committee did not review it or approve it, so we don't have any new official allocations from Reclamation, and I requested to just delay that to June, because you can see we're just getting the water, just the tip of it from the first snow melt. And this month, and the next 30 days are going to be super critical days for us to put water in the system, and everything's going to change. So I said, let's hold off and, until we know what's gonna happen, and then that water, consistent with our policies, will be in storage, and we can not only allocate it with reclamation level, but then we can allocate it to the district level.
Well, but what we've already allocated is gonna take care of any demand in this.
Right, we haven't released any water, we have an 18-inch allocation, nobody's gonna be short water, that'd be impossible since we haven't released any.
And the demand's not much.
Within 2 weeks after the release, we will be making, anticipate making another allocation. So some, June 12th is what I schedule it now, I mean, it's the board meeting. If you guys, if there's a different date that works for you guys, it'll probably be in the reservoir sometime around the end of May. We could do it a little earlier, but I figured might as well wait till the 12th.
Right.
So there's been a lot of questions at farmers meetings, and maybe you guys, as board members, you receive the questions, is why didn't, because this, first of all, we only can allocate what's in the storage, and so, but even saying that we've allocated 18 inches, so the release date is a different question. So there's 18 inches allocated right now. The date determining releases, we worked on this starting in January, coordinating with UAD because it's so difficult to release alone. At the time, a lot of this was going on, you guys remember that? We were in a record situation that we had all this stuff happened after that.
Yeah, well, I don't think we need to explain all that stuff out, or you do. I mean, we've already gone through it, and we did it because we did, and it's said, and the biggest part of it to me is the demand, the huge demand is not there till we get there, and which whenever you have enough demand, it kind of gives purpose to the losses, because if you get released for a small demand, you're going to lose a lot of them. And just because we have a lot this year doesn't mean we're going to have a lot next year, so we need to always be cognizant of that. So.
Right, so these are all the reasons
Yeah,
that
the reason we did do it, and like I say, I mean, it's a done deal, and we don't really
so we're sticking.
do it. Yeah.
We did do serious evaluation of trying to move it 2 weeks, and we worked a lot on it, and just came to the conclusion it was just going to be very disruptive and difficult to do. Those are the main reasons why we're not moving the
Once we get our system charged again, there's
So I'll answer any questions, so we'll make the next allocation is projected to be available.
we can
next
make
board
it,
meeting.
if we need to, so. Nobody's gonna use an extra foot and a half for their steering.
Well, some people
If you do-
try.
If you do, you can have a lot of folks up here in Kathy's office arguing about the charges.
Any questions? Is that one?
Well, you're doing good, Blair. Keep up the good work. If you can keep the water running, we won't look so hard at that report back there.
Flood risk report. Well, I guess, unfortunately, we're gonna have quite a bit of water system that's gonna move a lot of that sand down into your farm before we can get it removed.
That's all right. Is that all you have?
That's it.
Okay.
Morning.
All right, Pete. Morning. You're on.
Okay, so we're concentrating on the delivery system now. I know we're 1 month away from water season, so I pretty much put all the drain work on the back burner. We got a couple of the crossings that we gotta do, but I put them on the back burner for after we kick off water season. Some of the projects that were completed here this past month, again, we continue installing turnouts. I still got about 3 more to do. This is off the Hanson lateral for a farmer that came in here and requested the turnout. This is work afterwards. We continue with the removal of trees. Most of the stuff we're hitting now are complaints. We've got a lot of complaints on trees, so that's all we're concentrating. We're not doing any new removals or anything like that. Up the valley, and then of course we continue with the raising of our banks on some of our 7-9 ditches. We're utilizing some contractors that are bringing us dirt. You'll see here. To try to get ahead of the game a little bit. This is work that we're planning for next year. So right now that they're giving me the dirt, I'm placing it where I'm gonna need it.
Good.
Okay, so this is all part of the riverside.
It's a win-win situation. Win
Yes.
for them, win for you.
And I'm using my trucks to continue on the cement.
Hey, can we go back a couple of slides?
The one with the stumps in it. Right there, well, that one, there. Are we allowed to, or do we treat those stumps, because they just come right back?
We try to go back in there and we'll drill a hole in the middle
Yeah.
and put some Roundup on it.
Okay,
And a lot of times we will have to come back a couple of times, but you know, we won't let it get to the point where it's at right now. We'll kill
Knock
it
that guy's
before.
wall down anyway,
Yes.
eventually.
And even though that section there, you know, it's kind of borderline whether it's being district property or not, but they also, they're a nuisance for us, because every time I go in there with mowers, I'm having to trim them, and rather than trim them, rather than just get rid of them.
That elm structure is hard to control.
And this one here was actually a complaint there in the upper valley right off of Frontera. Make a couple of pictures of the earthwork that's going on, and kind of what the riverside looks like, right now. This was the, I don't know if you guys remember the, De La Rosa Road, where the middle drain had kind of eroded, where there was this big hole under the road. This is the work that went into there. Guys looking for
That
lines.
was the deal, it was scary, wasn't it?
It was, and they went all the way through, so. We've done 2 drains since then. We've done this one, and the Y303 was also completed, the drain work. There's actually the way it finished, project was completed, El Paso County.